Hi everyone. In this week's lesson, we're going to look at sessions and cookies, two ways in which we can track users as they move about our websites. Now, before I talk about sessions and cookies, I want to talk about the HTTP protocol, the protocol that websites use to transmit requests for web resources and then to respond and to transmit data back. That protocol is a stateless protocol. That means when we transmit a request and the server responds, that whole interaction is immediately forgotten. You could imagine this like if you went to order some food at McDonald's, I don't know, and you walked up to the teller and you said, "Hey, I want a Big Mac," and they said, "Okay," and immediately forgot what you had asked. Same idea. So you could kind of imagine how frustrating that would be. Websites are similar. Again, they don't maintain any memory about what's going on. So to track users, we use what are known as sessions and cookies. These are two different ways of storing data. Sessions is how we can store data on the server side. Cookies, of course, are how we can store data on the client side. And you may have seen other websites say, "Hey, I use cookies. By using this website, you agree to use cookies, blah, blah, blah." So in this first video, we're going to talk about cookies and what they bring to the party. So cookies can be used for really remembering things on the client side. So for instance, if you were to order a pizza and off the, I don't know, the Domino's website or something like that, you could build a pizza, you could add a pizza to your shopping cart. And you could store and remember what users are purchasing in their shopping cart via a cookie. And again, that data is stored client side. I believe cookies are string data, and so they're not super nice to work with. I don't know if you want to store a ton of complex information in them. I certainly wouldn't try to store an object in them. But we can also view cookies that websites are storing. So I thought we would look at the cookie that E360 is storing here on this page. The way I can do that is I can go in Chrome anyway. You can click triple dots, go to More Tools, Developer Tools, and I'm going to slide this. I'm going to make the page really small, and I'm going to start recording network activity. So to do that, I just reload the page. And I can see the Chrome has gone ahead and recorded information about the requests and response that were transmitted to get this lesson 7. I'm going to click it. And I can see, again, I've got all my information about my general information about the HTTP protocol, the response headers that were transmitted back to us, but then also the request header. And in this request header, I have a field called cookie, and you can see all the cookies here on this line. Now, cookies are very similar to parameters. Like up here, there's the lesson parameter, so it's the name of the parameter and the value. Cookies are exactly the same way. We've got the name of the cookie. For this cookie, it's called machine identifier. And then the other side of the cookie is the value. And these cookies, are all stored in one giant string, so they are separated with semicolons. We have another cookie here called PHP sesh ID. This is the PHP session ID number, and then it has this weird, crazy value. This is the has run cookie, the one that I make in lesson 7, and I assign it a value of true. There's a login URL cookie and assign the value of CVTC. Presumably E360 is, CVTC is not the only one to use E360. So it does have a login URL. Now again, cookies are ways in which we can store data on the client side of the computer. You can actually access cookies via JavaScript, but we can also get and set cookies in Java as well. And so we'll look at that right now. Okay. To save some time when I'm doing these videos, I've decided to go ahead and create the servlet code without having and stepping through that. I'm hoping to shrink the length of my videos. So I've gone ahead and I've created a cookie servlet. Again, this is just a cookie servlet. I haven't added much to it. I removed the annotations, changed the serial version UID, and cleaned some of the stuff up. Additionally, I've gone ahead in the web.xml file and I've added my cookie servlet there, and I've also added a mapping to it. So I'm hoping this saves a little bit of time. Okay, so again, cookies are ways in which we can set and store data on the client side. So for instance, if we wanted to I don't know, set our own cookie. We'll just set a basic cookie first, I think, to show you how they work. So first what you do is you can create a cookie object. Cookie. You may need to import the javax servlet.http.cookie class before you can use this. So the way you use cookies, again, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to declare my own cookie object called cookie, and I'm going to create a new cookie. Inside this constructor, we pass in 2 strings for the cookie. Again, cookies have names just like over here. They've got a cookie name and then a value. So over here, what we can do is we can make our own cookie. We'll give it a name of cookie name and then cookie value. This will create the cookie. This will create the cookie with a given name and a given value. Now what we can do is we can actually set that cookie using the response object. So we use response.addCookie, and then into the addCookie method we pass in the cookie that we want to add, and you can go ahead and add multiples of these. So this will then add a cookie object, a cookie with a name of cookie name, and then a value of cookie value via the response. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to forward users to my cookie.jsp file. And so I'm going to go ahead, I was doing some practicing around, try to practice before I make these. So I'm just going to delete that information. And we'll take a look at running that. Now first I have to forward users from my servlet over to that cookie JSP file that I've made over here. And the way we do that, per usual, is request.getRequestDispatcher. And then I've stored that JSP, that cookie JSP file in a JSP folder within the web.inf folder. So that'll be /web.inf, which brings us into the web.inf folder, JSP, which brings us into the JSP folder, and then finally /cookie.jsp. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and run that. Not much is going to happen. You're just going to see a web page, a blank web page at that. But I'm going to copy this URL and I'm going to pull it open in Chrome and we'll inspect that cookie we made using network activity. So again, triple dots, more tools, developer tools. We click on the network tab and reload the page. I'm going to expand cookie servlet. And you can see I've created a cookie called cookie name equal to cookie value. I've created it here. Again, these cookies are separated by semicolons. You can see that our servlet is actually setting a cookie called JSessionID to some crazy value for us. We're going to talk about that in future videos. Now again, this cookie is stored on the client side of things. So over on the client, users could actually change these cookies and try to do things to them. So it's not recommended to store, obviously, username and password within cookies, or to store, hey, valid login, let me through, because again, users would be able to change that and to hack through your website in a snap. So again, cookies are really useful for storing what users have in their shopping cart. I've seen websites where you can change the layout, you could store that information in a cookie. Stuff that our server really shouldn't be remembering. Okay, again, these cookies are stored in the user's web browser and they're transmitted to us when the request is sent. So if I go back to my cookie servlet here, I'll close out some of these tabs, getting a little confusing. Here I'm actually adding the cookies, but I can also read the cookies that are being transmitted via the request object. The way you can do that is with the request.getCookie, get cookies. And this guy will return an array of cookies. So I'm gonna create a new cookie array, we'll call it cookies, like so, to grab all the cookies. And again, Java stores these into a cookie array, so what we can do to actually chat to an individual cookie, so we could do cookies square bracket 0 to get the first cookie, and we could get its name like so, or we could get its value with .getValue. If you wanted to look at all the cookies, what we could do is we could just create a simple loop, and we'll loop through each cookies, and we'll do just that. So again, I really like for each loops to do this, so I'm going to create for cookie C colon, or for cookie C in cookies, we're going to print the value in each cookie. So we'll do C actually, let's not print the values, let's print the names and the values. So we'll do C, getting flipped up here. I know, we'll say cookie name plus, and so we'll concatenate C.getName, and then we'll print another line with the cookie's value. There we are. Okay, good. And I'm going to rerun this. And we should see each of the cookies that are in our that came in the request object show up here in the console, and indeed we do see them. So we've got one cookie called cookie name equal to cookie value. We've got JSession ID. We've got that crazy value. We've got a couple of the practice values that I was using from before this video stored down here. So those are cookies. Again, it's all about storing information on the user's side of things, the client side of things, that is. And again, mainly you would store like shopping cart information, or maybe what color they selected. You wouldn't want to store username, passwords, and sensitive stuff. And again, you can really only store string data. You wouldn't want to try to convert a picture into string data and try to store that into a cookie. Furthermore, the web browsers, you may only have, I think, you might only have like 2 kilobytes to store information, so you're not going to store whole images or anything into those cookies. The other thing about cookies too is that sometimes it's nice to set a timeout for the cookies so that they don't last forever. For instance, we may want to delete those cookies after a certain while, and so we may want to invalidate those cookies for our users. And the way we can do that is using this cookie object I created here. We can set the max age of our cookie before our cookie expires, before it's no longer useful. So what I can do is I can set an expiration time in seconds. So what we could do is we could say 60 seconds times 60 minutes per hour times 24 hours would set the expiration date of this cookie to 1 day. And it seems, trying to get the max age. I am not setting the max age. Whoops. Gotta use the setter if I want to set something. So again, this will set the max age of that cookie to be 1 day long. So again, 60 seconds times 60 minutes, 60 seconds per minute times 60 minutes per hour times 24 hours will give a cookie that lasts for 24 hours. So that's how we can expire cookies. And again, this is for tracking users as they move through our website's client side. Again, you can do a lot of great stuff with cookies for shopping carts and other things. You can access those cookies via JavaScript, and you can do fun things with that as well. So that's really it to cookies. Again, I've only really shown you kind of the basic necessities with cookies. Again, cookies are just name value pairs. You create a cookie using a cookie object. You pass in the name of the cookie, the value. You can set a timeout. It is encouraged that you set a timeout. And then you can add cookies to the response object, and then users will get that cookie client side. Likewise, we can read cookies that were sent to us from the request object via request.getCookies, and we can iterate through that array of cookies or access individual ones. Again, be careful if there are no cookies. This array is not going to have anything in it, so do be careful with that. But again, that's it for cookies. In future, the next video, we're going to take a look at sessions and how we can store data session side and the fun things we can do with that. So again, thanks for watching.